All right, so just like I said before, if y'all just wouldn't mind turning your mics off. All right, so this is how to use escape rooms using Google Forms. Um, this was a PD that I went to last year around. I want to say it was like the end of January. I was needing some extra PD, and I saw that Stella was offering this, and and I went to it, and it was really cool. And I actually tried this in my classroom, and what I'm going to show you guys and have you all kind of play around with is one that I actually created with my seventh grade math group. So I'm gonna test your seventh grade math IQ. So we'll see how that goes. Um, so here in the chat box, I have put in a Google form that I'm gonna see if you guys can. Um, I'm gonna see if you guys can fill this out in. I think I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. So if you just click on the link that I've given you, go ahead and try that escape room. Okay. You will. It will at the top of the Google form. You will need to um, you'll need to either type in or you'll want to copy and paste that link into your address bar. That sites.google.com. So um, so again, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do that, and we'll see how you do. Okay, you got about 7 more minutes. Hopefully you've got at least one of the locks opened.
Okay, I'm gonna just watch you all do this because I'm not having any luck. But but I could do it for social studies. It's probably not the math part or science. But yeah, I'm having a little trouble with the seventh grade on how I went to grad school, but it is amazing. But I want to see what your answers are. I've done escape rooms. I mainly do them not computerized, just the hands-on. So I need
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to transform ones I've done, like I'm obviously but the answers would be history related or with clues or whatever, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna see how it goes.
Okay. But you kind of get the idea though of what
Mhm.
it's looking for.
Yeah, you're doing it as a review for like a test kind of a thing, I guess.
So this was again one of my reviews that I did. This was on a and so what I did is I gave my kids I think I gave them like 30 minutes when they did this. Now there were more questions. Obviously I shortened this one down just for time reasons. I let them partner up and they again just basically had to try to escape and they like I found that this group was ultra competitive. They all wanted to be the first ones out. Like um my students who who I had a hard time getting to engage in anything were doing this and we're just they again just all wanted to be first. Um so I'm going to show you how to create one of these. So what you will need for this is Google Forms. Okay, so again, you can do. There are multiple ways you can get to it. I'm going to use. I'm going to use the waffle again. So I'm going to go to my drive, and I'm going to click on the little 9 dots up here, and I'm going to go down to Forms, which I believe is down toward the bottom. There it is. Okay, now just like earlier with the Google Sites, what this does when you go this way is it will bring up every single Google form that you have ever created. Um, so again, that's hopefully helpful if you titled yours. So again, I'm just going to make a blank one. So I'm just going to click on blank. Again, you've got some templates that you can choose from, but I just again just I like to start with just a blank one. Okay, so it's going to bring up this blank Google form. So just like with the Google Sites, what I want to do first thing is I'm just going to give it a title. So I'm just gonna call this Adkins Escape Room PD. There we go. Okay. Okay. So um, I'm going to assume at this point you guys have used Google Forms in some manner, whether it's been to give a quiz or um, like I did this. I used Google Forms a lot with my students when at the end of the year when we were all doing things because it was just really easy for my students to just type in their answers into this form rather than try to take a picture of their work and send it to me or some other way. And plus, it would grade it for me automatically. Um, so again, I'm going to assume that you guys have already used Google Forms. Um, so again, when you give your Google form a title, it's going to pop up right here. Okay, under form description, that's where I put in I put in the link to where the students could find the questions. And again, I just used the Google site for that just because I wanted to have everything in one location. Okay. Because especially when if your students are doing this, you'll want some way to track what they're doing. You don't want them to be on sites that they should not be on. And this way, if you have your GoGuardian set up, you can just have it where everything off of that Google site or off of wherever your questions are will be easily you can easily manage it if they're all in just one location. So I would just maybe put the form. I just put whatever wherever your questions are. I would put that there in the form description. Um, okay, so you notice for all of my questions, I just simply made them. I titled them whatever lock it was. So I just made it lock number one. You can make this question whatever you want. Um, you can like I said, you can make it whatever the question is. You can say question number one. You can say lock number one. You can say whatever. Um, okay, so that's the title of the question. Um, you'll want to make it short answer. Okay, because you don't really want to make a multiple choice because then the students are more likely to just guess at whatever the answer is. So I always make mine short answer because I want to know exactly they either know it or they don't. Okay, in the short answer text, that's just base. Okay, so that's just basically where. Okay, well, hold on just a second. I'm gonna scroll down here. Okay, first off, I'm gonna make this required. Okay, I always make all of my questions on here be required. So I immediately, when I make a question, I'll click right here to make it required. I'm going to click the little three dots right next to it. Okay. And when I do that, that's going to give me a couple of different options here. I want to make sure that both the description and the response validation are checked. So I want to make sure they both have a check next to it. Okay. So right now I've got it to where both of them are checked. Okay. So what that does is it gives me a description. So you saw in some of my questions, I had um, they all the answers had to be in all caps. One of them, I think they were looking for the questions that only had negative answers. So you can type in a description right there, just basically what you're looking for them to type in. The short answer text, that's where the students are going to type it in. Okay. Now where it says response validation, um, that's where you're gonna create what it is you want your students to be able to type in. Okay, whether it's like in math, you're going to be looking for numbers. You've got you've got a text. That's what I used when the students were putting in their codes. They were putting in a text. You could also do length if you want a certain number of words or if you want a certain amount of sentences. Basically, you're looking for a certain length. So, like there, you can do character count. You can have basically where the students don't have the maximum is basically where you can set a maximum of 100 characters or 200 characters. Um, you don't want them to go over that. And then if you want, say, a minimum answer, like if you want, say, 100 characters, and what I mean by characters is like the letters. So like the word Adkins would be 6 characters because it's 6 letters long. So again, I'm going to make the minimum. So I could make the minimum character length be 50 or 100 or if you don't want them just if you don't want your students just putting in one word answers. Um, you can also make a regular expression. So just like so basically if it you can make it where it has to contain something, doesn't contain anything, or it matches or it doesn't match. So what I did for mine, which made it really, really easy to be able to monitor, was just make it where it was text. Okay. And I want the text to contain a certain code or a certain um, combination. So like the first question I gave you all, it was about the true false questions. Um, the first one was true and the other ones were false. So I had 5 questions. So what I did is I went into my text. So right here is where I'm going to actually type in the answer. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the answer key. So I made it where it was where the first letter was T and then the rest of them were false. So basically that's the code that they would have had to have put in order to unlock it. Okay. Now if they didn't now if you didn't put that in, then you got some kind of a message where it said still locked. Okay. Now that's over here in the custom error text. Okay. So what I did over here in this custom error text is basically that's the message that the students would get if they didn't put in the code right. So I just would type in still locked. Okay. And you can make that be whatever. You can make it be try again um or good guess or something like that. Okay. Now the only way now if they did type this in, okay, so I'm going to go to my okay, so I'm going to pull mine up here so you can kind of see what that looks like. All right, so again, lock 1, the answer should have been a T and 2 and 4 Fs. Okay. So now if this was wrong, when I try to go down to it, so I'm just going to put in, say, 2 Fs. Okay. You got this message where it said it was still locked. Okay. So the only way to get it is to add those 2 extra Fs. Now you notice that still locked goes away. So basically what that tells students is that they figured out what the first lock is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to my other one here. Okay, so that's basically how you're making your key. So if students put in anything other than this, it's going to give them this message where it says still locked. But if they do put this in, then it basically allows them to go on to the next question. Okay. Now, the only way that they can go down here and submit is if they have all of these answered. That's the only way that they're able to submit this assignment. Okay, so ideally they're gonna submit it 100% correctly. So they either get it or they don't. Let me see. Lock 2. I can't remember what lock 2 was. Let me pull it up here. Okay, so it was the answer. So on lock number 2, if you still got that site pulled up that has the questions on it, all the answers that had negative answers were A, C, and D. So there we go. All right. So again, they would have to type in A, C, D in order to get that still locked message to go away. Okay. And then I put in here as the description. Again, it was the combination of the letters of the questions that had negative answers. Okay. Lock number 3. Let me pull mine up here so you all can. I don't remember what that question was, to be honest with you. All right, question 3. Oh, okay. So this one, what I did is they had to figure out which statements were true, and then I put a little message in here that the lock combination is the letters of the statements that are true. So the combination were all the ones that were true. And then I asked them, or I put on here, I said, so if you need a hint, they were to click here. So what I did is I had a hyperlink that went to a Google Doc that basically helped them along. Okay. Because what I wanted to do was be able to just kind of walk around and monitor. And I wanted them, if they needed help, they could ask their partner. They had little hints on their on the Google site that had all the questions, or they could ask me if they need to. So what I did here is I gave them some different things. Like for instance, distance is always positive, so C can't be right because I believe it was a negative number, but F could be right. And so I kind of showed him how to. I showed him how to do that, and that seemed to help. Um, so if I go back to so if I go back to this now, I also had a little thing where I had some little wild cards in here. So like if you um, I did this as kind of like a way to kind of to try to trip them up a little bit. So if they click, so if you notice, you can click um, on this red circle right here. So if I click on that, it takes them to something that is kind of like a dead end. Um, so again, it was just kind of a, it was a little bit challenging for them. So what they were supposed to do was um, click the box that said here. Okay. Now, one thing I ran into when doing this, one thing that I kind of forgot to do, and as my first class started doing this, when they would get to this point right here to try to get help, they couldn't access this page. So I showed you guys in the other session about sharing. You have to make sure when you go to share this, um, you have to make sure that that you have where anyone at Franklin County Public Schools with this link can view. Because ideally, all these kids will be logged in on their Chromebooks as themselves with with their school email. So if you have it set as this, where anybody at FCPS with this link can view, then students will be able to access this page um, with no problem. But what I did was I accidentally had it on restrict, and when it did that, um, like I had it on restricted. So basically, what that meant was I was the only one that could access this. So when students tried to do this, I got a bunch of emails that said so and so is trying to access this page. And so I just again just make sure if you're going to share anything with them that's on Google, whether it be on Google Slides or Google Docs or whatever, make sure you've got it to where anyone at FCPS with the link can view. So you just have to make sure that that is selected. And I believe that one, let me see what that one is. The ones that were true were A, E, and F. So if I go back to that one, A, E, F. Yeah, so that's the combination right there. Lock number 4 was, let me see what number 4 was. Okay, so it's just one-step equations here. So you were looking for, and it's, yeah, basically said all. Okay, so it said the combination is the only positive answer. Okay, so that one, the only positive answer was 100. So they had to type in the number 100. Okay. And then lock number 5 was, okay, so they had to fill in, it was just kind of like a checkbook, old account balance, transaction, and then whatever the new one is. Um, so you had to add the 3 missing numbers together. Um, I can't remember off the top of my head what the numbers were, but the answer should have been 15. So I go down, I type in 15. So you see, if they do all this right, then there should not be none of the locks should say still locked. If they get to this point, they can click submit. And if they get to this point, then they have successfully escaped the room. So again, this was, like I said, I thought this was a really great um, way to review. It was a little different. Um, the students, like I said, really got into it. Um, I was only able to try this for one unit just because when we got to the next unit, that was the time everything went down and the school shut down. So I wasn't able to do it again. But the kids were really, like I said, they were really into it. Um, so you just have to make sure that, like I said, you make your questions to where they're lock number or whatever, or question whatever, and you can even again type. You can even type the question in there if you want. Um, you have to. So you will want to make sure that you have short answer. Um, Description. You can put in. You can make it where your answer is all caps. You can say minimum of 50 words. You can basically you just basically you want to type in here what you want students to be able to type in to unlock it. They'll type their answer here in the short answer. Um, Again, the way I had it set up was text contains and then whatever the answer was. Um, you can play around with it if you want and make it, like I said, if you're math, you can make it where it's number. Um, if you're, say, wanting some type of like an open response where you're looking for a certain length, you can make it be that. Or if you're just looking for like keywords in whatever they're typing, you can make it be regular expression. And then again, you can make it however many locks you want. You just simply um, you can just you just click here to add question. If you have questions that you've already got typed in, you can import them here. You can add a title or description, add an image, add a video. You can add a section. Um, like if you want it to be two different sections, you can do that. Um, but just again, the big things that you'll want to be able to do is make sure again the short answer is selected. You'll want to make sure that down here, you'll want both the description and the response validation to be checked. You'll want the question to be required because if not, they can skip it. And here again, your response validation is whatever you're typing in there, whatever the answer is, or whatever keywords or phrases that you want to look for. Um, So I guess let me ask you all now, do you all have any specific questions about this?
I guess the only question I have is, would you how would you do this virtually? Would you do it in like breakout rooms or how would you do that?
Um, you could do it in breakout rooms. You could simply set, like if you're doing a Google Meet with your classes, um, you can do this. Like if you want them to do it if you want them to do it by themselves, then you could do it exactly like I just did with you guys. I would type the link into the box or into the chat box, and then that way they go to it. Um, they just simply go to the Google form, and then you have on the Google form where to go to get the answers. Um, if you wanted them to do it in groups, you could do breakout rooms. Um, I've never tried that before, so that might be something um, I may try this year. Um, but I think starting out, this would probably be if you're doing Google Meet for your classes, this is probably going to be the best way to start doing it.
Okay, thanks. One more question. Did you give them a little prize or what do you do when they win?
So what I did is I actually had little certificates printed up that I gave them that like say I escaped the math escape room. I can't remember exactly what it said, but yeah, I actually had a pretty good amount. Um, I actually had a pretty good amount that escaped. Like I said, I gave them 30 minutes, and I let them work with a partner. Um, Now it was obviously longer than what I think I had 10. I think I had 10 questions on there. Our math summatives were really really short this year because of the program we were using, but it was more where they actually had to type in or they actually had to write out answers, or they had to show steps. So that actually kind of worked for this. And then I noticed there was one question, and I didn't give it to you all, but there was one question that they really struggled with, and I got a lot of questions on it and was able to. And that was one thing from for me. I kind of used this as more of a formative to see if they were ready for their test. And I noticed there was one question in particular that they really, really struggled with. And so I was able to go back at the end when the time was up. I was able to go back and explain to everybody how to do it, and I was able to. And what I did for the ones that didn't escape was I went through it and gave them what the answers were, so that way they could all submit it and say that they've escaped. So
Thank you.
okay, all right, um, all right. So that's pretty much it. There's this one I knew would be kind of short and sweet. Um, it's just again kind of taking Google Forms to the next level. Um, I highly encourage you um, to try a review like this. You can easily incorporate this in for social studies. Um, especially if I'm trying to think of examples here, um, but I could see how you could very easily tie this into social studies. Um, I am actually social studies certified, but I have not actually taught social studies before. So
Yeah, you can use them for like almost any content, I think. But I've used them just hands on for things like the Black Death and different things. The only thing that isn't in this one that would be in the others is like the music, the setting up of the room, and the hands-on objects you use to kind of like set the tone and the theme that you're trying to create. And I guess I
mhm.
could add some of that to a Google form, or they could go to a link and get that. Maybe that's the
Mhm.
only thing. But I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think your students will really get into it. I know a lot of my students that I've had in the past are like really competitive, and they like the board races, and they like being first in things. So yeah, this was definitely challenging for them. um I'm going to do more of these this year. um so do you guys have any other questions about how to create these escape rooms?
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate you showing us because I was wondering how all this was being done.
Yeah. So again, this was just simply one that Stella Pollard did last year that I really liked, and kind of stole from her. But it's anything we can do, like especially with technology, to increase student engagement and get more students involved. I'm definitely for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, no problem. So same as earlier, I'm gonna share with you guys um, an exit ticket, just so again you guys can um, get 1 hour credit for doing this. So I'm gonna pull that up right now and share that with you guys. Sonia, did you get the one from the first PD?
Yes, I filled it out and sent it in.
Okay, I
Did it
just
not
maybe
work?
oh, let me pull it up real quick just to double check. The responses is running kind of slow.
Okay.
Yep, I got
Okay.
it. Perfect.
Good.
Do those
All right,
automatically go to
so let me
Jim,
pull up the
Dale,
other one and
or
I'll send that to you guys. I don't think these will, just because I created them myself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to email Jim, and I'm going to let him know who came to these. You'll probably still want, um, obviously you'll fill it in on the document that we're supposed to be keeping to keep track of our PDs. But you'll want to keep some type of documentation. Like these are the questions that you all are filling out are the ones that Jim Masters is wanting us to do as, I guess, a way of reflecting, um, like how we can use these in our classrooms and everything. Okay, so let me go to send. Okay, so again, you guys will want to check your emails just to make sure that you got that. Again, I thank you all for coming. Again, if I can, if I can help in any way, please let me know. Um, like I said, I've got 3 that I'm doing tomorrow. I think the first one is, I'm trying to think. I think the first one is Google Calendar. Um, like I said, I think that's going to be really helpful when it comes to setting office hours. I'm going to show how to make appointments that students can sign up for. Um, I'm going to show you how you can use these to when it comes like for parent teacher conferences, having your parents sign up for a time. Um, I'm going to show how to set up your YouTube channel. I think that's another one, and then again, I've got a way that I've figured out how to link Google Classroom to Infinite Campus, as well as some other things that you can link to Infinite Campus.
yeah, I appreciate it, Dale. Thank you. I look
Yeah,
forward to seeing you tomorrow, man.
yeah, not a problem. So again, I ask you all just to please fill out the exit ticket. That's pretty much all I have. So if you guys get that finished and don't have any other questions, you're free to log out. Um,
Thank you very
again,
much. I enjoyed it.
yeah, thank you all for coming, and um, I'll see you guys again soon, hopefully.
Okay, thanks.